At the start of the movie, we see a group of people getting ready. They are preparing because interviews were conducted for a high-ranking position at a prestigious company. And out of all the candidates, only these 8 people were selected. They were all very excited. When they reach the examination hall, they are taken inside. There, 8 seats are arranged, each with a question paper placed on it, and the papers have roll numbers written on them. At the door of the hall, there's a security guard holding a gun. Afterward, a male invigilator enters the room. He says, "Only you 8 candidates have been selected to be here. This is a great opportunity for all of you to secure a position in this company, so listen to me carefully and act accordingly." The invigilator explains you will only be asked one question and you will have 80 minutes to answer it. There are 3 rules you must follow at all costs. First, you are not allowed to speak to me or the guard. Second, if you ruin your answer sheet, you will be disqualified. Third, if you leave the examination hall, you will no longer be eligible for the exam. Then he asks, "Does anyone have any questions?" Everyone remains silent. No one asks anything. With that, the invigilator leaves the room. When the candidates look at their question papers, they are all shocked because the papers are completely blank. There isn't a single word written on them. Everyone is confused, wondering, what kind of exam is this? At that point, one of the women writes on her paper, "I am absolutely sure I deserve this job." However, the guard immediately escorts her out of the room because she had ruined her question paper. Now, everyone is worried. Then, one of the men says, "If we can't talk to the guard or the invigilator, we can still talk to each other, right?" When they start talking to each other, the guard doesn't throw them out for breaking the rule, which makes them feel a bit more comfortable. They realize that in this interview, the goal is to find the question, not the answer. One of the candidates suggests, "We can find the question by working together and coordinating." Everyone agrees that it might be possible that the test is designed to evaluate their coordination and intelligence, which is why the paper was left blank. As they discuss further, one of the candidates is about to share his name when another stops him, saying, "Our papers only have numbers, not names. It's possible that part of the test is to avoid sharing our real names." They decide to assign nicknames to each other. Among them, there is a dark-skinned candidate who is nicknamed Black, while a fair-skinned candidate is called White. A blonde-haired woman is named Blonde. There are 2 more men and women in the room, but one of the men sits quietly in a corner, showing little interest in the exam. Then someone points out that the invigilator didn't prohibit them from leaving their seats. The guard also doesn't stop them from standing or moving around. A woman standing in the room suggests, "What if the question is written on the paper in invisible ink?" Suddenly, one of the men holds his paper up to the light, but nothing becomes visible. Then the blonde-haired woman suggests, "What if there's hidden text on the paper that can be revealed by shading it with a pencil?" White responds, "Why don't you try that on your own paper?" Black interrupts, "Don't you remember? If you damage your paper, you'll be disqualified." Another woman suggests, "What if the question is written on someone else's paper and we have to find it together?" Black adds, "It's also possible that we all have the same question, and it's written on just one person's paper." White starts checking everyone's papers under the light, standing up and moving around. When he reaches the man sitting quietly in the corner, he checks his paper as well, but it's blank, like all the others. Everyone agrees there must be a way to uncover the question. Black suggests, "Maybe the text on the paper is written with something that can't be seen under normal light." At that moment, Blonde notices a faint blue light glowing along the edges of the walls. Everyone starts thinking, if we look at our papers under the blue light, we might understand something. However, they search everywhere, but can't find any button to turn off the normal lights and activate the blue lights. Then Black says, "This is emergency lighting. It will automatically turn on if the power goes out. So the only way to turn on the blue lights is by breaking all the other lights." Some candidates begin breaking the lights, one by one. However, others are against the idea, saying, "What if the blue lights don't turn on even after breaking these lights? Are you willing to risk being left in complete darkness?" They decide to vote on the matter. 4 candidates agree to take the risk. With the majority vote, they break all the lights. Their plan works, and the blue light spreads throughout the room. One by one, they check their papers under the blue light, but nothing becomes visible. Everyone becomes upset because 20 minutes have already passed, leaving them with only 1 hour. White says, "We can't damage our own papers according to the invigilator's rules," but he didn't say we couldn't damage someone else's paper. White picks up the paper of the woman who was disqualified earlier by the guard and tries pencil shading on it, but nothing appears. He then suggests tearing the paper into 4 pieces to see if anything becomes visible. Taking things further, White places the paper in the corner and urinates on it, thinking the liquid might reveal the hidden text. This action enrages enrages the other candidates, and they begin scolding him for his behavior. Meanwhile, the quiet man sitting in the corner suddenly starts crying and says something in French. A woman who knows a little French translates his words. By doing all this, we are only revealing our true selves. One of the candidates starts wondering, is this a test of character rather than an exam? He looks at a glass wall in the room and says, it's possible that the invigilator and others are watching us, mocking our actions. Another candidate disagrees, saying, no, this company isn't like that. Its CEO oversees everything personally. If anyone is watching us from behind that glass, it's definitely the CEO. Don't worry, he wouldn't do anything foolish. Then something strange comes to light. All the candidates realize, even though they are here for a job interview, none of them know the name of the company. In reality, the company is known for creating a cure for a deadly virus. This virus requires patients to take medication every 2 hours to survive. It's believed that the company might have discovered a permanent cure for the virus. The first candidate responds, yes, if that's true, maybe they are conducting such a bizarre test to hire the right person for the job. The remaining candidates turn their attention to the fire alarm. They speculate that there might be a chemical involved, like the ones used to develop photographs, which could make the text on the question paper visible. A woman quickly snatches a lighter from the guard's pocket, intending to use it to activate the fire alarms. However, as she climbs up to reach the alarm, the lighter's flame doesn't reach high enough. White then folds a piece of paper and hands it to her, saying, burn this paper to create enough smoke to activate the alarm. She lights the paper and successfully triggers the fire alarm, but upon closer inspection, she realizes it was her own question paper that she had burned. The guard immediately disqualifies her for destroying her paper. Now, only 6 candidates remain. Black becomes furious at White's careless suggestion and angrily says, I should punch your lights out. To everyone's surprise, all the lights in the room turn off at that exact moment. Another candidate standing nearby observes this and says, he said lights out, and that's why the lights turned off. If I say lights on, they'll turn back on. He tests his theory and says lights on, and as expected, the room lights come back on. This realization makes it clear that the lights are controlled by voice commands. At this point, the man who had been sitting quietly in the corner the entire time suddenly starts crying again. White approaches him and provocatively says, why don't you just tear up your paper? Emotional and frustrated, the man tears up his paper. The guard immediately disqualifies him for ruining his paper. As the disqualified candidate walks out of the room, his glasses fall to the floor and shatter. Witnessing this, Black loses his temper completely and punches White hard in the face. After this incident, White collapses and loses consciousness. Black ties him to a chair to prevent him from causing more trouble. After a while, White regains consciousness and tries to say something, but Black had gagged his mouth with a cloth. One of the women steps forward and removes the cloth from White's mouth. White, struggling and desperate, pleads, give me my medicine. It is then revealed that White is also infected with the same deadly disease for which this company develops medicine. White says, I've figured out the question. I'll tell you what it is if you give me my dose. The group searches White's pockets but finds nothing. While this is happening, White passes out again. Suspicion falls on the woman who removed the cloth from White's mouth, saying, I figured it out. You work for this company and were sent here to distract us. The woman defends herself, saying, I'm just a candidate like you. I've never even seen this company's CEO. Trust me, I don't know anything about the question either. As they argue, everyone notices that White's body is trembling. Blonde scoffs, he's just acting. But Black interjects firmly, no, he's not acting. He's suffering from the same disease my wife had. Blonde then speculates, if White doesn't have the dose now, it means the dose must still be here among us. We need to check each other. With only 15 minutes left on the clock, the group frantically searches one another for the dose. However, no one seems to have it. One of the women approaches the man who had been accusing others earlier and asks, where did you put your chewing gum? She examines it closely and realizes it isn't chewing gum. It's the missing medicine from White's pocket, disguised to look like gum. She rushes over to White to administer the medicine, but before she can give it to him, the man slaps the medicine out of her hand, sending it tumbling into the gutter. It was almost impossible to retrieve the medicine from the gutter. The girl looked at the camera and said, Invigilator, can't you see that he's dying? You need to help him. The guard arrived and disqualified the girl for breaking the rules. Then Blonde got an idea. Using her hairpin, she managed to take the medicine out of the gutter and gave it to White. Now only 4 candidates were left. They asked White, now tell us the question. We've given you the dose. White replied, the answer to the question is hidden within the question itself. The last candidate to remain in this room will have the answer. White ran towards the guard as the guard had a gun, but Black snatched the gun first and pointed it at White. White said, so, do you really want to shoot me? If you have the guts, go ahead and fire. Black fired, but the gun didn't work. Then White quickly grabbed the gun and fired, but again the gun didn't wouldn't work. That's when they realized the gun could only be activated using the guard's fingerprint. White forcibly took the guard's hand and activated the gun using his fingerprint. After activating the gun, White pointed it at the boy, ordered him to leave the room. Now only 3 candidates remained: Blonde, White, and Black. White turned to Black and said, "Now it's your turn to leave the room." Black replied, "I'm not going anywhere." At this point, Blonde said, "Fine, I'll leave." Blonde walked towards the door and said, "Lights out." The lights immediately turned off. In the darkness, Blonde hid near the door. White started shooting in the dark, firing all the bullets. After emptying the gun, he said, "Lights on." When the lights came back on, it was revealed that Black had been hit in the chest and was slowly closing his eyes. Blonde still had 1 foot inside the room, but White assumed he was now the only one left in the room. White approached the camera and said, "You've got your answer. I'm the only one left in this room, so this job should be mine." But then the guard showed his watch and said, "Look, there are still a few seconds left." It was revealed that the man who had been sitting silently in the room all along had adjusted the room's clock to show a few seconds ahead of the actual time. White believed the time had run out, which is why he spoke to the guard and broke the rules. Because of this, the guard disqualified White, leaving Blonde as the only remaining candidate in the room. Blonde picked up the silent candidate's fallen glasses and started looking at her paper. She saw question 1 written on it, but the rest of the paper was blank. At that moment, the silent candidate and the invigilator entered the room at the exact time ran out. Blonde realized that the silent candidate was actually the company's CEO, who had been observing them all from the beginning. Blonde walked up to them and said, "No." They smiled, pleased with Blonde's correct answer. The actual question was the one the invigilator had asked at the start of the exam. "Do you have any questions?" Blonde's answer, "No," was the correct response. Afterward, Blonde apologized and said, "I refuse to take this job." When asked why, she explained, "I cannot work for a company that destroys lives." Then the invigilator went over to Black and said to Blonde, "Look, he's still alive." He explained that the bullet fired wasn't meant to kill anyone. It was a capsule that entered the body, temporarily knocked the person unconscious, and also cured other diseases in the body. The whole world was searching for this treatment, but the company had already developed it. Blonde was being hired to help bring this treatment to the world. Hearing this, Blonde felt happy and accepted the job. And that's where the movie ends. If you like the movie, then please support the channel and subscribe to watch such an amazing movie's explanation.